Hi, George Hepworth, Grover Park Consulting. Welcome back to the series where I take the Northwind Developers Edition template from Microsoft Access and rebuild it in PowerApps. In the first video, I introduced the project and what you can expect from the series. In this video, we're going to walk through the original Northwind template. We'll look at the UI design, or what it looks like in Access and how it works. The data model, which is a solid, cohesive, relational table design, properly normalized, and the consistent user experience, the way the whole application works together, which makes it a great candidate for replication in PowerApps. One thing I want to point out before we actually open the database is that because it is a template intended to showcase Access features, it includes things that normal databases do not. The first form you see when you open the new template for the first time is a welcome screen, or a welcome form, with a link to a training video. The second screen, or the second form you see when you open the template for the first time, is a login for a new user. This experience is designed to set the stage for a more complete application down the road. Once you have gone through those first two forms initially, you have the option not to show them again. Let's look at the database. The first time you open the new Northwind Developer Edition database after creating it from the template, you're shown in a welcome form. This form includes a link to watch the Northwind developer video. The first time you open the database, you have the option, you see the welcome screen, but then you also have the option to not show it. When you click the Continue button, the next form you see is the login for new users. This is a look forward to the point where the database is implemented as a multi-user database with a login security option. Right now it's just the experience of logging in without anything behind it for security purposes. I'm going to log in as myself, and I'm going to give myself the title of Chief Development Officer. And in the future, when I log in, if I've unchecked the welcome screen and created a user, then I no longer have to log in the future. A couple of things about the interface across the top. Of course, we have the standard Office ribbon. We have created a custom version of the Office ribbon for Northwind. We have created a custom navigation pane. The first working form that you see, I'm going to flip back and forth between calling them screens and forms because I'm used to working PowerApps and Access, PowerApps and Access, and sometimes I slip and use the opposite term. The first form is the orders form. It's filtered currently to show only open for orders. It's shown in a datasheet view by the employee who took the order, the customer who placed the order, and so on. Details about that order and what status it's in. We use the order number in the left-hand column as a hyperlink to look at the details of an individual order. This is a more interesting form. It is a master and detail layout. The customer and shipping information at the top, the order line items in a subform below. The subform is in datasheet view. We also have a workflow across the top. These buttons, when clicked in the correct order, sequence the order from creating the original invoice through shipping, receiving payment, and closing it. Validation, which runs when you click these workflow buttons, checks to see if certain requirements are met, if required values are present, if the required sequence is selected. For example, you can't close an order until after you have received payment for that order. This is a one-to-many relationship. One order has one or more order line details. Let's look next at products. Again, the products are shown in a list format in a datasheet view. You'll notice also that some fields are in yellow. They're highlighted in yellow. Those are items which we have insufficient stock to meet our current orders. They're below the reorder level, and it's time to reorder these items soon. Again, the product ID in the left-hand column is a hyperlink that opens us to the details for that product. The products are shown in the upper left corner, details about it below, editable value, editable controls for unit price, cost, and so on have a border. Calculated values, the calculated value, those are shown without borders, and so on. Product description is rich text format fields. Customer orders, how many have been ordered by which customers. Purchase orders which have been placed and or filled. We have some extra items. I'll point that out here while I'm thinking of it. For example, this icon tells us we can get more information by going to an online support article which talks about product in the Northwind Developer Edition. If you click that, it will take you off to a web page. That's one of those features which I have not yet implemented in the PowerApps version, which focuses primarily on CRUD data operations and data validations in phase 1. Let's look at purchase orders. This is very similar again to the order list, except that it's not filtered. The purchase order ID is in the left-hand column, set up as a hyperlink so we can see the detail for that purchase order. Purchase order, the vendor and shipping information at the top, product information, one or more product lines in the subform. This one is closed, so none of it is editable, but we have the same workflow sequence: submitting the PO, approving it, receiving it, paying, and closing it. And these have validation steps behind them, which are replicated in stored procedures in the PowerApps version. The validation here is done in VBA, of course. Let's look at companies. We have a company list. Again, in datasheet view, it's filtered or unfiltered. Now it's showing all companies. Try that again. Our vendors, all companies. The company ID in the left-hand column takes us to the detail form for that company. Editable fields with a border, a map that we can link to a Google map online. And again, we have the RTF format for our notes about this company. A list of contacts for that company, again in continuous form view. Previous orders submitted by this company. Finally, let's look at employees. This form is different from the others we've looked at. This is a split form in Access. Those of you who are Access developers watching will know what a split form is. For those who are coming from the other end of the development scale, this type of form is a hybrid between a datasheet and a form view. Selecting an employee in the datasheet view displays the details about that employee in an editable format in the top of the screen. Split forms don't exist in PowerApps. However, in implementing this in the Northwind PowerApps version, I tried to create a screen which resembles it as closely as I could with the split view, datasheet on the bottom, editing portion in a normal view at the top. The data model. Let's look at the data model next. Products relate to vendors or companies. Some companies are identified as vendors by their company type ID. Those companies which are vendors can supply one or more products, and each product can be supplied by one or more vendors. We have a product vendors junction table, which allows us to indicate which products are sold by which vendors and which vendors sell which products. Orders are placed by companies. We have a relationship between companies on company ID to customer ID. So when a company is identified by the company type ID as a customer, those companies, which are customers, place orders with us for different products, and the product is included on the order detail. In addition to a customer, each order also includes a shipper. So those companies which are identified by the company type ID as a shipper will appear here in the shipper ID for a given order. Employees are responsible for taking orders. So when an order is placed, we record the employee ID who placed it. We have the customer, shipper, other information about the order. There are a number of other supporting tables, purchase orders being the principal of those. A purchase order is when Northwind buys products from a vendor. So Northwind issues a purchase order to a vendor. Each purchase order is for one or more products, and products therefore also relate one-to-many to purchase order details. And again, there are additional supporting tables. Those are the principal tables that I've called out. It's a straightforward schema. It is not particularly advanced. It's complicated enough to make this a useful model to build from. We migrate the same tables from Access to SQL Server for our PowerApps version. So everything you see here will be migrated into the SQL Server tables with the same data types except for images. This is what we call a multi-value field in Access. Access is almost unique. Very, very few other databases support this multi-value field, but you can include multiple images under a single field in Access. SQL Server does not support this multi-value field, so we had to modify that when we moved it to SQL Server, and that is in fact one of the reasons why I decided to defer image handling until I get the basic CRUD and data validation set up and working. And that's about all you need to know about the data model, except, as I say, it's very straightforward, well-rounded, and once we migrate those tables to SQL Server, obviously we get other advantages like scalability, and it better reflects real-world enterprise development as you scale up. One thing I really appreciate about this template is how cohesive the user experience is. You have a consistent layout, tabbed forms, and lots of built-in logic like conditional formatting, filtering with combo boxes, filtering with the option groups, and validation rules that keep everything working smoothly and efficiently and consistently. Of course, not everything in the template will map directly to PowerApps. For example, VBA code, which runs the Access template, will have to be replaced with a combination of PowerFX formulas and in most cases, SQL Server using stored procedures. In addition, subforms will need to be rebuilt using a combination of galleries and collections and other techniques. Image handling, as I mentioned previously, will be deferred to phase 2, and since the original template is designed for a single user, we're holding off on multi-user features like permissions for now. But this basic structure is solid, and that's what makes it a good candidate for this kind of replication project. So, that's a quick tour of the Northwind Developers Edition in Access. It's clean, functional, and it represents the kind of application that Access developers have built for years. In the next video, I'll jump right into PowerApps and start setting up the environment, connecting to the SQL Server version of our data, and building the main CRUD screens for products, orders, purchase orders, companies, and employees. If you haven't seen the first video yet, check that out for the full context on this project. And if you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the rest of the series. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.